Oh boy. Oh, doctor. I don't have to do that for this. Hi. Welcome to Laser Time. Welcome back to Laser Time, depending on how we're doing this. If you're listening, you're watching on our YouTube channel. We just got out of Doctor Strange, and we wanted to tell you what we thought about it.
Orange.
Doctor Strange.
And boy, are my fingers tired. Right?
Yes. It was a very finger-happy movie. Holy shit. I thought this was another one of those make-or-break moments like Guardians, if you can do this, you can do anything, and they did. I wanted to
do it. Yeah,
wanted to remind both of you, like, we're in a fucking major Hollywood Doctor Strange movie.
Yes.
I mean,
you know how many people I thought they had to get
I don't
through.
need to be reminded. I've lived it for 30 years.
But just still, you do need to be reminded.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No.
I know. Look, we have plenty of time to look cool, but the idea that Marvel got through an
trying to
entire roster of heroes and villains and ended up at Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
They've now had to dig far
The
enough
difference
to
is
get
it's been
to
announced
Doctor
for like 3 years, so the impact of that was 3 years ago when I was excited then. Now
man.
we're here to talk about the content of the movie, not the fact that it exists.
I mean, me in 2014 still didn't believe it when I saw it on the list of like, oh, we'll make this because I think I don't believe it in Humans film will come out.
Fuck you, because they ended the movie by saying Doctor Strange is not only going to be involved in a shitload of other stuff, but we're already doing a sequel on like the riskiest venture we've ever taken.
I would expect nothing less from them at this point.
They've also not had any.
There's been no flop. There's been no mistake.
Besides the two Hulk movies, like they've never had a single venture that went like, well, we can't do this again.
People keep like lording the Dark World over my head. Like, go back and watch the Dark World, which I have not, and I remember I thought
I don't
it was
really
fine.
want to.
It's like it's a weak movie, but it's like it's not a garbage movie. If you call that movie garbage, then most of movies are garbage.
Those might be they might be the only movies you see.
Yeah, it's like it's not great. It's definitely not great, but it's still full of crazy visual effects. The last 30 minutes are super fun, and like it's worse than the first Thor.
Of
but
Dark
like,
World.
Yeah,
Because in terms of I think I will say right now, the only thing Zack Snyder's DC EU has over the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that it's visually distinctive, and at least it chooses a style. The Marvel style, in hindsight, will look ugly as shit. It will, because
it won't look ugly. It's just already looking sanitized.
Yeah, it looks like a mountain of CG, and they're not using CG. Here's a boring building. Here's the hull of a ship. Here's water. All CG. All characters walking in front of it. Whereas this was like, Doctor Strange made me miss music videos.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
It did. Like, these are just visual sequences that like you need a real artist to come up with, not someone to make utilitarian effects work, to make Captain America look like he's standing in front of a monster.
Or that he's grabbing a helicopter or whatever.
As far as the movie goes itself, like the standout for this was I thought the moment to moment, all of it was like a B minus. B maybe, like the movie itself was kind of I was kind of like, it's fine.
I don't see myself returning to it over and over again.
Nah, but like all I wanted from this movie was sell me on the crazy shit I read in the comics. And literally the first time they showed the Dark Dimension, I was like, you assholes.
Yeah,
like they did it, and it's all the weird little balls with tendrils coming off of it. I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted.
I had one complaint: not enough yellow. But I get it. It's 2016. We love our dark color.
It's all very 80s.
It's purplier.
It's purple and proto mini.
The depressed Silver Surfer floating in front of like pastels. Like, you really went there. Holy shit!
But they drop into when she expands his world. When the Ancient One expands his world, like this is the Steve Ditko arts like alive in front of me, and that's what I loved about it.
And that was very cool. That was my. I mean, it's why. Most of us went to this movie hoping, please be wacky and weird as shit with its visuals, and it totally was. It's a little slightly whatever that even magic gets reduced to melee weapons because that's the easiest thing to choreograph.
For a few scenes, but like
though the conclusion of the movie itself, like the way he wins,
that's
like,
great.
That's
and that storyline,
awesome.
For what it's worth, the whole again, this is a spoiler talks, but if you thought they were going to make a Doctor Strange movie with that Dormammu, you're crazy.
We did think that though, right? They hadn't mentioned it.
I
wasn't going.
So
looking
the reason
for
I didn't know, but I knew, is because they haven't introduced a time gem yet. What else are they going to do that with? That's not really a Guardians of the Galaxy thing. That seems like Doctor Strange.
How soon did you call the time? Because I said the moment.
They said the word time like 400 times in this movie before he ever.
I wasn't waiting for the time gem specifically
because I knew all that's left is time and soul. I mean, anybody would know that, but
and
time
you
and
now
soul
Jim has to go into Black Panther, baby.
So by the time
Jesus
they
Christ.
said like time it's a time gem, like just I have Agamotto's a time gem, got it, and it took like an hour for them to finally do it. I'm like, anyone who's been paying attention, like we know, like to save this for a huge reveal is a little silly. But
John Wetzel saying
still
Dan Harmon
cool.
wrote the Dormammu scene.
Oh, really?
I remember hearing he was doing script work.
I mean,
on it.
we're all jumping around here.
We
I
are.
like.
Well, I'll
Okay,
finish. I'll
finish
finish
your
the.
thought.
I'll finish the Dormammu thought, which was a lot of that stuff is right out of his very early appearances in the '60s Doctor Strange stuff, where Strange basically tricks or saves Dormammu from the mindless ones, and it basically creates a stalemate where then Strange says, "You owe me. Promise me you never come back to Earth. Promise me you never invade. Release these people." And that's exactly what happened in this movie. So I thought that was really cool that they basically did this. One of his first appearances.
Doctor Strange winning with an asymmetrical, outwitting of somebody instead of punching somebody. Like that is also what I thought was one of the best character moments of Strange in the movie when he's like, "I killed a dude and I didn't want to. I don't want to kill anybody." And before that, he sucked at punching somebody. He's not a guy who fixes a problem by punching.
So couldn't Dormammu just have basically not killed him, but injured him so bad that he was basically comatose, and then it's
but
now he's not going to bother me.
Come back again.
No,
but isn't
the
it
time gen just made it a repeating loop?
I thought he's only able to repeat it.
I do feel like if they thought about the scene more, he'd be like, "Yeah, just don't kill him."
Yeah.
Then if death is what triggers the loop, then you could have.
I think that's what they were
Dormammu's
implying. That
smart.
he'd sit there and argue with him until he was murdered.
Exactly. One way or the other, it's like Dormammu's mind was, "I'll just kill you forever and you'll suffer forever." So it's like if he didn't, either way they're stuck there. But
Dormammu's not the smartest.
even someone like Dormammu, who is fucking A-level bad guy villain in the Dark Dimension, you will most know him from Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But
the fiery skull in a purple outfit.
He is someone that I feel like could still be undone with even the basic ass time gem without all the other gems reinforcing it. It is that level of power.
He's also like a dude. If you told me, if I read a story where Mephisto tricked Dormammu into doing something, you'd be like, "Oh, totally, Dormammu would fall for that." Dormammu's all power.
And then Tranquil Bez is saying, "Did anyone get bad Fantastic Four 2 vibes from the final battle?" And Night Dehumidifier says, "When I think of Dormammu, I think of the Hood. Any likelihood of him in the future of the MCU?"
The Hood totally could. I could see the Hood getting in there, especially if Bendis still has power over that world and he loves the Hood. But
I thought only briefly about Fantastic Four 2, just because they
literally called Dormammu the Destroyer of Worlds.
Well, the ambiguous shape of Galactus at the end of that movie, but at least they do show you something. And it's a fucking cool effect.
It's a really cool.
They needed a head of him, and I like that. And Tilda Swinton was great. I liked it. But what the biggest shock to me was that they turned his cloak into a character. I did not see that coming.
They turned it into magic carpet from Aladdin.
Got a little.
It exactly
That's
was.
exactly what it is.
It got a little too cute with drying the eyes. I'm like, come on, this was supposed to be a badass.
He was nursing his wounds.
Well,
I thought it was drying his tears.
No.
Well, in general, there were moments of the film where they said this needs a laugh here.
Yeah.
People need a laugh here.
I thought some of that was a little forced.
Some of it was really forced. That was my biggest takeaway.
Cumberbatch isn't the right dude to deliver those kinds of laughs.
Yeah.
And he definitely was leaning on his RDJ the RDJ magic to make that happen. And I've heard that criticism a lot from people that it's Iron Man basically. Again,
I mean, it's the Marvel machine. They built it. They're just really good at doing that now. But it is the Marvel beats. Chris, you and I complained about that a little bit on the Luke Cage spoiler cast we did. It's same deal.
It's you're starting to see the gears a little bit for sure. But I do like the distinction of Strange, and it is important that he's an asshole in the beginning.
Yeah.
He's a cocky little shithead.
No, he's Strange. Yeah. I mean, that's
less
all
so
these things
than
are Twilight
Tony
Zone.
Stark, because Tony Stark is at least out to I want to change the world, and whereas they show that prolonged sequence not operating on that guy, not operating on that guy, not worth my time.
All the original.
I don't want to break my streak or something.
Yeah. All the '60s stuff is Twilight Zone episodes where someone has to get. I mean, Peter Parker getting Uncle
Spider-Man's the ultimate.
Dr. Stephen Strange thought he was gonna.
And what gets taken? His hands. Now he'll never operate again. They're all the same thing. But
I can't remember if I read the original book or just the Oath. But
the Oath is the story that gets linked around now to if you've never read Doctor Strange, read the Oath.
The difference.
The Brian K. Vaughan, right?
Yeah. But the original one. The original stuff is a lot there, and I do think it's wrong that they called it. It was co-created by Stanley and Steve Ditko, and that one really is. In the Steve Ditko doc from the BBC, they pull up this postcard that this is Stanley in a postcard saying Steve Ditko is the sole creator of Doctor Strange. It's me.
Really?
But for Marvel legal standing, I guess they still say it's co-created everything.
I'm still infuriated to see executive producer Stanley this 100-year-old man charging $80 per picture at every con had nothing to do with making this movie.
Make his cake talk.
Put me in it. I'll be reading a funny book.
His cameo was obviously done at some other way different date and time.
James Gunn filmed it. He filmed his next 4.
If they ever make a David Bowie biopic, Tilda Swinton should play him. I really like Tilda Swinton in the movie. I know that was a bit controversial, and you were saying something about the melee fights. There is one sequence in the New York Sanctum where I'm like, this is just kung fu. Yeah. There's no magic. These guys are just punching.
It becomes the Matrix at certain points.
But then I also never thought I'd walk out of a movie saying, that Tilda Swinton fight scene.
Great.
Great.
No, it was great. And they did. So I said this to Brett afterwards. I think, like, they're really, with the Ancient One, left in a bad situation where they either have to recast, or if they pull it straight out of the comics, that's a very problematic stereotype the old Ancient One was.
Because I thought he was going to be that, like, yes master. Isn't that who?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to think.
Yeah.
Like, and it was a good trick. But the back to Stan Lee, the Stan Lee thing is interesting, though, because Stan Lee actually had always wanted to make a Doctor Strange film. When he went, the reason there's that horrible TV movie is because Stan Lee went to the LA in the 70s to make Marvel films, which is what fucked up all Marvel films until, like, it's why they don't have, actually not X-Men, it's why they don't have Fantastic Four, why they kind of still don't have Spider-Man. Why it took a while to get Doctor Strange. And they made Doctor Strange a TV movie because he always wanted to make it. Even on the Simpsons commentary for the episode he did in like season 14, they say, what movie do you want to make? He's like, I've always wanted to make Doctor Strange. I love Doctor Strange.
I looked into it while researching this episode, and like I thought I remembered watching part of Doctor Strange and it being a very boring TV movie, but it is visually very interesting. And Stan Lee was apparently very happy with how it came out. Like kept a relationship with the director who's written episodes of Jag. We all remember.
I thought about Jag today. This is such a weird occurrence.
I mean, your love for planes. I can see it crossing your brain. But that I don't think he was unhappy with the way that movie came out.
I saw it in like 2005, and it was like I went in watching it like this will be garbage, and then when it wasn't, hot trash.
Ooh.
Because when you think about 70s TV movie, you're like, oh no.
I mean, it's better in some ways than Most Incredible Hulk episodes.
Sure, and it's like this isn't. If I was a kid in '78 and watched it, I'd be like, this was awesome. So I can't begrudge them.
I see John Wahizel saying Tilda Swinton should have been Ong from the Legend of Korra's preceding.
Darren Castro saying Stan Lee charges $100 pick out, just an FYI. Worth Attendance says, did anyone notice when he was knocking back patients, one of them was someone who hurt his back in a powered suit accident?
I thought that was a wink to Rhodey, but if that happened, then that would, like... That was time really collapses in his training because even if he is the best student ever in the comics, Doctor Strange, like his training was years and years and years, and it happened before the Marvel age of comics.
And I only reflected, maybe you can see some of it in this footage down here as I tickle his bulls. That the cars make and models were very modern, so the movie did start right now.
Yeah.
I don't.
Even if like 2 years passed or whatever, but his hair growth was just enough for like a year or something.
And this gets into mega spoiler talk, but Landon, you know you are Mr. Bussy. So that Thor stinger definitely makes me think Thor 3 will be the biggest lead into Infinity War.
Oh yeah,
it kind of has to.
I've never seen them imply that strongly because I thought they were kind of spinning their wheels with the what was the Civil War teaser that was just.
It's just like, and here we are in Wakanda. Like it pointed you to Black Panther. It just pointed you to Black Panther.
But what movie had that? I can't remember what movie had that sting in it.
What?
Ant-Man. It had. Was it Ant-Man? It just had the Winter Soldier's arm and a vice. And I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're going.
That was the double of Ant-Man. Yeah,
and this is them very clearly saying we know exactly where Doctor Strange is going, and he's going into the next Thor film.
It's seemingly so. Yeah,
I guess does it make sense? It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
he's magic. He's the closest one.
I mean, if him and Loki are, what I don't understand is like, I mean, Ragnarok right now looks like one of the
not
best.
The event Ragnarok, but Thor Ragnarok the film.
Yeah, one of the cast for that seems like my favorite cast of any Marvel movie ever.
It's got a great director. The guy did
which
Will the People. And, What We Do in the Shadows.
Everything about Ragnarok right now, I'm like A+. The story Ragnarok ran in 2004, I think, in Thor, and ended the series for years, like 5 years or something.
Yeah.
All through Civil War, Thor wasn't around. The comic event Civil War. So it was gone for like 5 years or something. So having Strange and Hulk and Loki all running around in Ragnarok with like seemingly leading up to Infinity War, because all the gems are accounted for except Soul. So either Soul will be part of Ragnarok, or I'm thinking the first there's only one now. Infinity War movie is about Thanos getting them, and maybe the last 10 minutes of the movie is with a Soul Gem.
You think so?
Like, I can't imagine Soul is what Guardians is about. I think that'd be a little weird.
James Gunn keeps saying no, and he said no the first time, and he was fucking right.
No, he wasn't, because the power gem's in it. So.
No, but it was introduced there, but Thanos didn't get it.
No. Didn't get it, but he is totally working the crowd. Like he is absolutely his movie 100% ties into everything.
Well, they've
like all he said is,
but he says our movie is not in service of Infinity War, and it
already was. Like that's him. He's pushing people's buttons. Like it totally is. What he said specifically was these characters aren't teaming up with the Avengers. That may bear out to be be but the movie is all about showing you what the power gem is, showing you the threat of Thanos, and Thanos going, "I'll do it myself." Like that's kind of.
But when is he going to? Is he going to do this in just the first Infinity War movie?
Whenever the Soul Gem shows up, that's Adam Warlock's stone.
Well, again, I wouldn't even think Adam Warlock's going to be in these.
Because I thought he was supposed to in Guardians. That was the rumor.
I thought so too.
He was supposed to be behind glass.
Well, his cocoon was, but it's hard to tell what are just fun homages and what is like we're actually, because then fucking what's his name is Ego, the Living Planet, who has been advertised as his father. So it's like that's not Adam Warlock then. So however the Soul Gem works into this, it boils down to, for me, like Thanos in these movies, and whenever this builds to what it's building to, he can't have all the gems for more than 20 minutes. Because I want you to imagine a movie so expensive that it includes the visual effects of Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy,
the contracts of multiple Chris's, Hemsworth and Evans,
like a movie.
Pratt's.
Just one character that has the powers that backed 5 other movies, and you have to introduce what the fuck is the Soul Gem. So it's like you can't have him running around for 2.5 hours.
What?
Woo! Like he can't.
Right. 80s Mulligan is just asking right up front, like I asked with Suicide Squad, is the film any good? You all seem tired and disappointed.
Friday.
We just got out of the movie. It was good. I give it a B. If you want to score, I give it a B+ as a Marvel fanboy.
I wasn't expecting much from it because, as we talked about in the previous segment, I think magic gets really tricky, and a lot of the stuff in the Marvel universe has worked thus far because it's very grounded in something real, and then Guardians kind of threw a wrench into the reality of everything.
Well, I mean, it is Guardians is grounded in music, and that was kind of that was the closest thing to an eye roll I had in the movie. It wasn't, but I liked it. But Stephen Strange is a boring dude, and their way of giving him personality was he knows every song, and so and it at least had him. His introduction is, I know what music is. I know pop culture in a way.
Which is one of the things that I didn't like about it. Was some of the forced humor, and then doing the music thing again, and then dropping it for 90 minutes, and then it comes back at the very end.
Well, that's what.
And it's like, if he's this into music, how come you didn't mention music for over an hour and a half after that? It's not integral to his character.
The woman we saw it with, is that someone you work with?
Yeah, Corey.
Yeah, she pointed out that
a music industry
not unlike Westworld now, where you can hear modern songs redone Western-wise. She said there's a Pink Floyd Interstellar Overdrive song cover, not hidden, but it is in the movie, and popular songs are in the movie, just not the masters.
It's weird that the beginning is him talking about all this classic rock, and then when he meets Wong, then it's Beyonce, Drake,
I wonder if those are retakes. It just needs more humor.
Some of that stuff felt like, and it all ties back to humor because those are supposed to be jokes. All these music things, and it's like it didn't quite feel like it wanted to be a character quirk or traits, but it's like it wasn't really. So every time they did the music gag, I was like, you haven't really paid this off, and just saying Beyonce isn't like a joke.
In hindsight, I thought they were trying to pay off, because at the very end he's like, I have a photographic memory, and there's a second where the characters are like, oh, so you'll probably be Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
And I think the music is supposed to exemplify that.
That's when he said photographic memory, that's when the music clicked for me. And also, it at least gave you an explanation of how are you an expert at things in at best a year that all these people have learned for their entire lives?
I didn't think he puts down that stack of books. You read all of these books right now. I'm like, I could have done that. I would retain nothing.
Yeah,
you wouldn't be able to ask me anything about it.
That's why Wong is more impressed. But I also was glad they didn't end him as Sorcerer Supreme. Like, he's still got room to grow. There just is no Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, I thought
he doesn't get to keep the eye either.
I thought they were going to fully root him in the New York Sanctum.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I also love. Like, that is his Bleecker Street house. The window is perfect.
I love the window. I didn't even really notice till he's walking up at the end. It's the shots in the trailer.
Yeah, I was pissed off at that, actually. I was like, you put that shot in the trailer. You're ending it with that.
Oh, one other thing I think this was a reference. Whenever he makes the deal with Dormammu, I love that I can say that happened in a movie. And that's him fighting Dormammu in the trailer, but he's too big to see. Jesus. Whenever Strange makes the deal and says, never come back to Earth and take your disciples and get out of here, and he's like, oh, you'll have everlasting life, but you won't like what it is. I'm looking at Henry here to see if you make the same realization I did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So when they start disintegrating and flying away, right? What do they look like when they finally shredded off their bodies? They were one solid gray color with a red line where their head should be.
Oh, they're the mindless.
The mindless ones.
Oh, damn. Oh, my God. Those are great. Those are great.
Trump support?
Those are,
yes, yeah.
You did it. With less than 1 day to go. With less than 1 day. You got your last one.
Yeah, the mindless ones are just, they're juggernauts, or, well, not the juggernaut.
They are nearly indestructible fodder enemies that are in Dormammu's first appearance, actually. And they're kind of foils even to him.
And they're perfect for a movie to kill things. But they got it. I liked that they saved some things. It was after Civil War, which was basically Avengers 3, and just gave you all your candy. And actually, I read an interesting quote that Peyton Reed, the director of Ant-Man, was kind of, he said at first he was annoyed finding out that they were doing Giant Man in Civil War and he couldn't do it first in the next Ant-Man film. But oppositely, in this one, they held back a lot of things, you know? He still has stuff to learn. He's got the cloak, but he doesn't get to keep the eye yet.
Yeah.
And though I was a little annoyed he didn't have on his orange gloves until the Thor scene at the end. Like, his dumb gloves. I guess the last scene has to be him looking at his hands like, oh, my hands are still fucked up.
I am ashamed of myself.
Kessel Do Live says this is the first Marvel movie to make me tear up. Beautiful speech about life and death from Swinton.
Yeah,
that made me think though.
She did very good.
So Strange, turned back time to revive Wong during that end sequence. Couldn't he have just done the same thing?
That's far too far back.
Like when it happened, couldn't he? I guess
because
he heard
Again, we'll talk about that. And the nature of magic means if you can turn back all time, do you stop at Hitler or keep going?
Yeah.
She would have said at best he turned back time 8 minutes.
Twinkie thinks that is an excellent question. Did you think Cumberbatch did a good American accent? I think because of how established he is as other characters, it is a little distracting.
It's fancy mid-Atlantic, which is what I expected from Doctor Strange.
It's just one of those things that reminds me of Bob Hoskins and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You sound like no one. There's nobody who sounds like this.
That's the connection.
That's it. Cuckoo over calamari. Fred Flintstone, that's it.
Benedict Cumberbatch
Fred Flintstone raised by British people.
Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't sound like most British people.
I went to boarding school in Shropshire.
I mean, the character. Where's the character itself?
Doctor Strange, like I said, he's a mid-Atlantic. He's a waspy, New York-y, Connecticut-y type dude.
I mean, it's like
90 Murphy saying, "Hey Henry, Doctor Strange sneezing must have been a combination of boogers and Cumberbatch."
But
it's been a long time.
I actually would have made Doctor Strange more mean. I liked his dark moment was him going like, "Fuck you, get out of my life. I hate you." But I kind of wanted him to be more mean and more. But maybe I'm just equating him with his Asperger's-y Sherlock character, who is just no emotions and pushes people away.
I do love that character. Yeah, he used the same accent, I think, in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I believe. 80s mullet, we like the movie. I don't know why. It is a decent film. It's perfectly enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, after
it does not break any molds.
No.
Other than you knowing this is a Marvel movie where they enter in. What do you want to call it?
It's like I said, I'd give the movie a B minus, maybe a B, but combined with all the crazy visual effects, just the trippiness of it makes it very watchable.
Yeah,
so even though you could say the movie, I wasn't emotionally moved for much of it.
Yeah.
But again, like you won't see a movie that looks
you
like
guys
this.
didn't elbow each other in the ribs even once.
Mm-hmm.
And
I did elbow a couple
two times. One was when Dormammu's face kind of first appeared, and then when
was that? Then?
When Mordo said, "This is the staff of the Living Tribunal," which is like the most. Oh Jesus! Like I freaked out. Like I had genuine like heart like fluttering in Guardians when they showed the Celestial.
Oh my God! Yeah,
and not the floating head, but like the actual Celestial walking. I was like, I never in a million years would have ever thought I would see a multi-million-dollar CG recreation of a Celestial walking around with a power gem, seeding worlds, and doing all the shit that Celestials do. That's nuts. But him saying, Mordo saying, Living Tribunal in a movie is like, that's the end point, everybody. If you see the Living Tribunal in a movie, that's it. There's nowhere crazier to go.
He's pretty...
And the fact that we're even scratching at that it's been broached.
In case you don't know, the Living Tribunal, like he's pretty much the closest thing to God in Marvel. Like, okay, Eternity is... But even Eternity has to answer to the Living Tribunal.
He's above Eternity, Henry, because the Living Tribunal... has dominion over everything. Like in theory, he even knows about DC.
Yeah,
and like
a best example of his jurisdiction was in the start of Infinity Gauntlet, where all the other major people, including Eternity, which is the universe, comes to him and says, "Hey, Thanos is going to kill everything. You should just erase him." He's like, "That was natural, and he is not breaking the laws of the universe."
Tribunal says he only seeks to replace what you are. So if he can do it. Who says
Evolution won?
Who says your order is better than his order? That's just the way life goes. And Eternity's like, fuck you. So Living Tribunal does not get involved, and he only reports to Marvel's God, which is the one above all, which you never... You see him in... I think the only time they drew him was when Peter Parker met him on a beach.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a homeless man whose eyes are glowing. Like, if you go to his wiki... At least as of years ago, I haven't looked in a while. But the one above all's wiki, it just looks like a regular dude's face. It's because that is literally God coming down to go, Peter, it's fine. Like,
how does this guy? Orthotino's asking how do you guys rate this amongst the Marvel origin movies? Pretty good because
the first films, pretty good.
I think TBH, I think most of the Marvel origin films are pretty boring.
Dude, I love Thor.
They all got to lay a lot of traps.
I have not watched Thor again.
Thor is great, and I really did like Ant-Man. Like it was just really fun. I wouldn't say it's a fantastic film, but man, was that fun! Like all the big
Cap's
small
like
shit.
the weakest.
Cap's the worst.
And whether because I
mean Hulk.
People keep asking about our B. People say my else is B minus, pretty harsh. B plus for me for sure. I lean a little more towards B plus because I think. Marvel.
Are we whining about B minus and B plus?
Well,
like, as a student, I'll take either one.
I'm grading.
Still better than Suicide Squad.
I'm not getting grounded.
Please give me either.
I'm grading this on a bit of a curve because I think Marvel has gotten away with wowing me based on surprises that work once and using established characters I have a previously established affection for. I don't have a lot of that with Doctor Strange. I think when I rewatch this, it might function more as a whole film, which I don't think a lot of those films do.
I mean, so many of even Ant-Man had some previous characters from other Marvel movies.
Captain Falcon, the Falcon thing.
This one, I don't think anyone was. I mean, until the end.
They mentioned you see the Avengers building, and they mention the Avengers by name, and that's kind of it.
And they needed to ground. I will say they did a great job in grounding things with the explanation. It kind of reminded me of. To explain Asgard, they just say, "Look, they're space aliens you don't get, okay? And and it looks like gods to you. It looks like magic." And when the Ancient One is explaining how it works, she's just saying, like, it's in your head. We learned things that unlock stuff. Think of it like science if you want. Because they did have to. I actually liked how the Ancient One dies. Big spoilers there, but the way she dies in a way she fell and crashed through a window, and she doesn't have the magic spell of fix all my bones for me. Like they can't just pull anything out of their ass in it, and that's the thing in comics and magic.
It's magic.
Well, it did make me realize this and Fantastic Beasts are like a week apart.
Oh, yeah. And we'll talk about that in the first second. I'm so confused.
We will have talked. What a great conversation.
I'm so confused. That the scene where they're talking. There were a couple scenes that made me feel like this, but that scene was like, this is Mortal Kombat. These are hovering characters in palette swap tunics.
Oh.
And there was a scene when Strange was trying to get back from the freezing area, and he just looked like he looked like someone about to do a fatality.
Well, Shang Tsung MK3 is definitely his Mantis style.
That was weird. You had to have that teleportation ring, but I guess that they needed to explain that. Like, well, then why doesn't everybody teleport everywhere all the time?
Sting ring, do your thing.
Sling ring. Yeah.
Sling ring.
Okay, you know who we haven't talked about this entire time?
Who's that?
Rachel McAdams.
I had no idea she was in this movie.
The people are saying like she's in like the Natalie Portman territory, where it's like she could easily be.
I hope you got paid well, because you do not matter.
Well, look, I don't want to. I never want to trash a woman in this. I think she did a good job of what she is.
I'm fine with it.
I think she did a good job of what she was handed. What I think it actually was Marvel realizing like this barely needs a love story, and so they didn't overdo it. Like they didn't. Also, I'm glad she didn't even kiss him on the lips. She's just like. Kiss on the cheek. Yeah, we're not really like I saved you and we're bros, but like I'm not your true love.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like instead of I mean, her role there wasn't much for her to do, so she did what she could. Yeah. But I like the idea that they didn't shoehorn in a romance. I learned how to forgive myself, and now we can be in love. Instead, it was an equally deep emotional message, which is, I hurt you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I forgive you. We are friends again, and it's like people can connect to that without being like, oh, they're so in love now, which I would not have believed at all.
She's his old life giving it
really
away.
Have chemistry. That was
I also think they needed They need one human being to root Strange in the real world, because he didn't really spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
And another thing. He had a Windows tablet and had to contact someone from Outlook.com. That had to happen. Product placements. I was like,
I was surprised he knocked it off the desk. I'm like, what?
Well, I wonder if
kettle chips. But if you haven't seen the razor he uses to shave his goatee. That's in a commercial for that razor.
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, this is going to be so crass. And it's like, oh, but. Him being able to shave
has to
plays
use it because his fingers can't hold it.
Marvel, you're geniuses.
You know something too they changed from his origin is they de-drunkified him. Both
him and Iron Man.
Him and Iron Man can't actually be alcoholics. Like
only Stan Lee.
I was waiting for him on his way to get in a car accident. Like, okay, and you're going to drink too much at this party, right? And it's like, no, he's just kind of full of himself and not watching the road. Like that's it.
Was Iron Man never drunk in this movie? Or
not really?
I mean, I remember in Iron Man 1, he reveals like, and here's my cooler full of drinks.
Camera's gone.
Darren Castro saying, and this is a character I'm surprised they didn't bring up, was, hi, everybody, we're even bigger now. I hope whoever they cast as Clea in Strange 2 kicks the proper amount of ass. And that is a character I was surprised, given how many that they did tease and that they did allude to, or like we set up Mordo, Dormammu's not gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if he came back on some level. And Wong, like there's
but Dormammu promised a man.
One man a sorcerer, more than a man.
He's broken a lot of promises.
Yeah, I mean, what I really wonder is when they get to Thanos and all this stuff. The big part for me as a kid reading that comic, I was like 10 years old in '91.
Infinity Gauntlet specifically.
Yeah, Infinity Gauntlet specifically was it introduced me to this wider cast of characters outside of like, oh, I've heard of Spider-Man, but like, what's this character made out of the universe? That seems pretty neat. But it was cool seeing. I wonder if they'll go back and have characters like Will Odin, Dormammu, like the closest thing they have to cosmic characters. Will they all get up in Thanos' face and be like, how dare you?
Odin should have heard of Dormammu.
Yeah, Odin will know who Dormammu is, and I'm sure Thanos will. And it's just like, I wonder if they'll actually go that far, or if it's just like, no, he was just here to be a villain and forget it. Because if Thanos gets to that point in the comics, like, this is one of those problems of introducing huge villains in these movies. Like, if Thanos gets to that level where he's like, yeah, I'm going to rewrite reality and just kill everything, do you think Loki and Dormammu and fucking Odin and whoever else is laying around is like going to actually just be like, yeah, I'll wait and see what happens? Like, that's the whole point of the comic was like, even the bad guys, even Doctor Doom is like begrudgingly Okay, fucking fine.
I can't rule existence if he stops existing.
Yes, so. and he still betrays people and tries to win anyway.
The second he can grab the thing, that's why they actually could have beat him if Doom hadn't gotten in his way in the one moment they'd had.
And that's the only thing left to surprise me is if somehow behind the scenes they work out a deal for Doom to show up in Infinity Gauntlet.
Just Dr. Doom. I don't need the FF. Just the Dr. Doom.
They weren't even there. But
yeah, the fight. I mean. There were parts I really liked it. I didn't love it. Like it didn't. I wasn't laughing in giddy excitement like I was through most of Civil War.
Well, it couldn't do that just by being a Doctor Strange film.
And they kind of got to hold back. Though I do wonder, like they're setting up for. Well, first they set up for the next actual film, but they do set up for a Doctor Strange 2 with Mordo as the villain.
Too many sorcerers.
But when's that movie coming out? 2022.
It is not on the slate for till the slate goes till 2019.
I mean, the slate always can change. They could just say, no, we've moved up Doctor
Captain Marvel's gone, isn't it?
Captain Marvel keeps getting moving, but they cast Brie Larson. They just don't have a director yet.
The Inhumans is gone.
Inhumans is not happening.
The S.H.I.E.L.D. show had a season and a half of just Inhumans.
And I'm sick of them.
So I started watching the Ghost Rider stuff because I'm like, look, there can't finally be Ghost Rider that's done well and not see it. And Ghost Rider's fine. Yeah, he's not great, but he's
expensive too.
He's expensive, but there are definitely shots in the S.H.I.E.L.D. show where I'm like, that looks really cool.
Yes.
I can't begrudge them.
Good question from Landon. Also, how do you get me to care about any smaller origin conflict once Thanos shows up? Yeah, and I guess that's you're right, Landon. It's probably a reason why they haven't shown him collecting stones or using them, because how do you go back and care about a small story about Ant-Man doing a heist?
But they're not small stories. Each of them still almost ends with
Ant-Man's
reality is dead. Like, reality's dead. Dormammu is going to kill everything that exists. Same with the Guardians is Ronan has it.
Has a power gem.
He's going to fuck up everything, and then they stop it. And Thor Dark World ended with reality itself collapsing in on itself. So they always risk galactic problems all the time in the films. They just don't. Nothing happens.
Thoughts? Worth Nintendo's asking thoughts on the main villain bad guys. Were they just referred to as Zealots?
We haven't talked about him either. Yeah.
Is that like a proper Marvel name with a capital Z? Zealots? I haven't heard it before.
Yes, I honestly my knowledge of Doctor Strange villains go Mordo, Dormammu, Shuma Gorath, and then nothing else.
There's that one guy,
just has
the one floating guy in the Marvel card video. You'll have to see it for yourself. But I did.
Mance did a fine job.
He was good. I'm never not going to like him, but I really did like their what do you call it? Reality swords? Their air swords, because they rip a strip of reality out, and it I don't know. I thought that looked real neat. Again, that's a big part of movie magic. You've heard me on these shows say Fast and Furious is genius and movie magic because it's putting things I can barely imagine into frame for me to see, and that's Doctor Strange does that more so than any other Marvel movie I've seen, and it does it constantly, not just in fight scenes. So that's why I grade it on a curve. It may get like a B+ if I was actually reviewing it, but I really liked it. Just not enough to run back to the theater to see it or torrent a cam version, which I usually do.
Well, I think they made a smart move hiring Scott Dickerson as director.
I don't know him. Is he?
Well, he just did a bunch of small horror films, and we're not horror movie people, so we didn't see his version of The Exorcist.
I don't watch Sinister movies made by people with phallic names normally.
Or sorry, The Exorcism of Lady something.
I am somewhat tempted to rewatch this in 3D just because of the insanity.
I've heard of IMAX 3D, but not regular 3D.
Because I saw a little piece of that in the behind-the-scenes video. I'm like, I cannot believe they're going there. Yeah. Surely that's the end. And when we saw it, I'm like, they showed me the beginning. Yeah. Like, I hadn't seen all their wacky, not cosmic shit, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Though also some of those city-bending scenes made me dizzy.
Yeah.
Weird. That never happens to me when I watch movies. So.
Yeah, your buddy Matthew even pointed out, remember how wowed we were by Inception? And just everything they did was done cranked up to 11.
The thing they did in Inception for 2 minutes tops was multiple action scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked the growing of Doctor Strange's power. Making his fight with Mads was a good little fight scene between them, and especially him rising up and floating with his wiggly hands and the cloak on. I love that.
A weirdly character development approach to a fight scene.
Yeah.
Where he's forced to I don't know. I thought it was very good.
He's forced to fight, and the cape has to fight for him because he's not a fighter.
And most people don't directly kill the person they're fighting, especially someone low level, and Strange does and flips out. And it's like something I haven't seen in a Marvel film.
I also really liked Mads' speech that almost got him of like, yeah, join me. Like, because Strange's origin to that point is kind of a villain origin. He's like, I could have fixed this. I'm the best. Like, he borders on Doctor Doom level pride, and so that was him being told like, you could just join me, like this is what you want, right? He's like, no, wait, it fucked up your face, like this is evil, I'm not doing this. Like, I like to at least point it out, like, you look evil, I'm not doing this.
Though it did work kind of on Mordo, like that. It was kind of like a telephone thing, but
wow. Darren Castro has seen it in IMAX 3D and regular 3D. Either go big or 2D. I will, if I see it again, I will definitely see it in IMAX 3D. I don't regret doing that for Dark Knight Rises, and I might, if I get the chance, I'll do it again. Maybe my girlfriend is curious.
I definitely like Doctor Strange more than the first Cap movie.
Yeah.
Not and I more want to than like the first Thor, not more than the first Guardians.
I want to like
Actually,
the first.
I think I do like it more than the first Thor.
I want to like the first Captain America movie so much because it's just the Rocketeer again by the same director, and I don't. I
rewatched it again like 2 years ago, and it's like it's still.
There are some great moments in it of his character of saying like, I don't like bullies and just like these. But then other times you're like, I'm just marking time, and it's just not exciting. Like the action just isn't
it's like
there.
Red Skull's super wasted.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I really hope they get him back for some reason.
Yeah. Well, though
somehow
he says he never wants to come back. The actor
loves money. He'll voice a Transformer. He'll do anything. Yes.
He doesn't. There's been lots of stuff he doesn't come back for.
He said that about his Transformers role. Just a job. I don't care.
Well, that's 2 hours. That's not putting on. In 2 hours, he does makeup.
I just want him in the last moments of the last Marvel movie to fall out of the Cosmic Cube, because
was is this
and be the last thing. Like technically in the Marvel universe they've created, he was there in the 40s.
He's the first supervillain.
He's the first supervillain. So like, please somehow just have him pop, because he didn't like get disintegrated and pulled into a billion pieces. Like like you can use any comic book excuse. Like he's not buried in the ground dead. Like he was absorbed into the cube. So Thanos can be ready to go, and then all of a sudden Red Skull flies out of his hand, and I'll be like, sweet, good. I'm glad.
Final questions for me, well, because we got to get out of here. But is Rachel McAdams' character a Doctor Strange universe character?
I mean, I feel certain she's been in them. They wouldn't have just made her up. Let me do a quick search on that. But I mean, he doesn't in the original comics. He doesn't have a girlfriend. I was telling that to our friend Corey afterwards. Like, Steve Ditko is not into romantic subplots. Stan Lee did it all the time. He loved cheesy romance. Steve Ditko is like a Randian objectivist who does not care about love. Like, he's not into that stuff, you know?
Oh, apparently she's been Night Nurse.
Oh, what? She was the original Night Nurse. That's right.
Oh, wow.
Christine. And that's why she was doing Night Nurse bullshit in it. I don't mean... So I love Claire Trimpey in the films, but
kind of my favorite character after Luke Cage.
But her plot, the thing she's given a plot of like, well, it's a good thing Claire came with them because a person got shot and it's time for her to sew them up again, and it's just constant. And that's the same thing.
Thank
like
you, Landon, yes.
in this movie, Christine Palmer was the same deal of like break glass in case of injury that the main character has to fix immediately.
19 Minute Fire says Red Skull ends up in current day New York, sees a couple of rabbis, starts flipping out, fade to black.
Was?
All right, guys, we have to cut this out, but you got an exclusive preview of next Monday's show. Go out and vote. Go see Doctor Strange. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week with a new episode. You can enjoy this on YouTube anytime, this portion of the show. Thank you, guys.